Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have on Deborah, and she's here to tell us a story.
Hi, I'm Doula Deborah. I'm a registered massage therapist and I'm a certified doula. I've been practicing for 20 years, both in the massage therapy field and as a doula. And I want to talk about how I wanted to show up for other women in doula care because of my birth. So I gave birth to my first daughter, 24 years ago, and it was a beautiful delivery. I went in with some pretty big goals. I wanted no drugs. I wanted to be in the hospital, and I wanted just support from my partner and support from a doula. And I got everything that I wanted. So of course, when I was pregnant for my second baby, I figured it was going to go even better. That's not always the case. You may have to change your birth plan or pivot from your birth plan depending on what's happening at the hospital, how you're feeling that day, how your partner shows up. So I ended up with kidney stones at 36 weeks and ended up hospitalized and fighting off morphine and Demerol for a week, which really, really impacted my resilience and all of the powerful work that I had done. By the time it was 37 weeks, I was exhausted. I had hired the doula that had worked with me for my first birth, and she brought in a student. So I felt like I had everything set up, right? 2 doulas. So the day that I turned 37 weeks, they were going to induce me because I had kidney stones and I was in a lot of pain. So what happened was I went in for my induction. They started the induction. And of course, I don't know if you've ever heard anything about the induction, but it starts with Pitocin and it's the artificial hormone Oxytocin. And the contractions are, we like to use the language 10 times stronger than normal contractions. And I ended up starting it. Everything started to progress really beautifully. From my experience, I know that women typically ask for help at a certain point in labor. There's, when you first go into labor, you're like, oh, is this it? Is this it? What, it's a little bit of a moment of like, wait, what's happening? And then between 5 centimeters and 7 centimeters, there's typically a ask for help. That might be, I'm really struggling staying coping. And I got to, I think, 7 centimeters and I got really overwhelmed. There was a lot happening in the room and, my ability to cope was gone out the window. And that's usually when your doula team and or your birth partner or birth team, anyone on your team, really, that's when the heavy lifting comes in for the team member. And I cried. I put my head on the hospital bed and started to cry and looked at my husband and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And he's like, what do you want to do? Like, it's totally up to you. And I said, I really need some help. I really need some help. And he's like, do you want some medication? It was obviously our husbands don't do well when they see us cry. And I said, yeah, I think I want the epidural. And typically in that moment, if I'm in the room, and you and I have had a big discussion about what you want, I'm saying, okay, I hear you. I hear you asking for help. Let's get through this contraction. And then we can talk about it when the contraction is over. But the lead doula on my team was a friend of mine, and the other one knew me as well. And so it's when you build that connection with someone, it's difficult to see them hurting. It's difficult to see any woman hurting. That's one of the hardest parts of our job. But we also know that how to get you through it, and that on the other side is everything that you want. So the doulas took charge of it in the moment. And then in between the contractions, they asked me if I wanted the epidural. And I said, yes. It was a decision. There was no reevaluating. There was no distraction, get you in the shower or anything like that. Anything else that I had on my birth plan didn't get put into place. So I ended up with the epidural. And of course, I get the epidural and it's in and I lay on my back and I'm feeling the desire to push right away. So after the birth is over, and the baby's here safe and beautifully, I worked with Dr. Hazen. He knew who I was. He knew me in the community. He had been my OBGYN before. He let me pull my own baby out. Like, it was really empowering and really wonderful. It was a beautiful, beautiful birth. But I felt like there was trauma involved. And my doulas, every birth that you're in, no matter what, it's a privilege to be invited into that space with someone and their family and that only moment that they get with that baby. So I think that the doulas were riding high and they told me, oh my God, that was so powerful, but I didn't believe it in my cells, in my heart, in my soul. I felt that I had not failed, because there's no failure, but I felt that I could have done it differently, because it's hard giving birth naturally, but I had done it before and there was no medical emergency. I was just defeated from the hard week and I needed a little bit of distraction. And so after that birth, I knew that I had to change the way that I was practicing in the doula care and in the community. And it changed the way that I treat people with the prenatal visits. We talk about, how do you want to cope? How many times do you say the word epidural to me before? Do we choose a code word? We work really strongly on those things. And if you say to me, Deborah, do not offer me the epidural, I will not offer it to you. Obviously, if your husband and you look at each other, I'm fighting for everything that you want, but it's changed the way that I show up for my doula clients. I know I can get you past that 7 to 10 centimeters when you're asking for help, as long as you agree to the shower or massage or nitric oxide. And I feel like I left that birth with trauma, but I heal it all the time because I'm in the delivery room with other people.
Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
That's such a powerful story. Your experience through that has helped you see mothers in their dark moments, right? Like you're able to empathize with them better because you have been through that.
Yeah, I do think like the universe lined that up specifically for me so that I could, like, I recognize there's a silver lining, because otherwise I wouldn't have ever experienced what it was like to get the epidural. And I try to look at it as much as possible that way. I don't feel like it's traumatic now. I've healed that part of me. But I think it's taught me what women feel in that moment, but also how they feel after, if they don't feel that they're in full charge of the decisions that happen during birth and labor.
What were some of the reasons that you didn't want the epidural?
It wasn't that I didn't want the epidural, but I come from a really long line of women who birth naturally. So I was taught at a very young age that birth is not anything to be scared of, that physiological pain is very different than harmful pain. So my mom gave birth to 7 kids, all with no drugs. My sisters all were beautiful birthers and their daughters. So I wasn't afraid of it. And it just wasn't taught to us that you got drugs during labor. So when you talk about here in Windsor and Essex County, the majority of women do use the epidural, but it wasn't something that I was accustomed to. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Newfoundland in a very small community, and it wasn't something that I wanted. It wasn't something that, I'm not saying I didn't need it or that women, if they want it and or they need it, there's anything wrong with it. It was just not a part of my vocabulary. And also the second time around, I had already been a doula, so I knew how to support a woman through unmedicated birth. So it wasn't about the education so much as the language that I've been around my whole life.
Are you finding that a large percentage of the women that come to you are requesting epidural free?
I don't necessarily think epidural free. I do think that the majority of women that want me to be at their birth and not someone on my team are women who've had trauma the first birth. So the majority of people that find me are women who've had something in their first birth that they didn't want to happen, or they felt it could have gone differently. And then they want me to help them get that. So I wouldn't say that there's a larger percentage of women asking for doulas because they don't want to get drugs. I think more women now are understanding that the way that we give birth in Windsor and Essex County, and also Ontario, Canada, North America, it's a systematic process, and they don't want to go with the flow in that situation. Yeah, I think the majority of the population, maybe even 70%, are getting epidurals.
Was it your first birth that encouraged you to become a doula, or were you already on that path before?
I had just graduated from massage therapy school. I already had one daughter, And I had just like started my massage therapy job, and one of the lead doulas in the community approached me and said she had done my birth training with me. She was who I hired for my first birth. She came to me and said, I want you on my team. There wasn't a desire specifically for me at that time, although I was specialized in pregnancy massage. So it kind of like put the circle together. So it wasn't that there was a strong desire for it. It was that I was approached and recruited.
Now that has led to a full career path. And do you actually recruit doulas as well?
I have recruited doulas. I have 2 doulas on my team right now. One of them came to a gathering. It was actually a drum circle, and she met me, and when she was leaving, someone else called me Doula Deborah, and she was like, "What? You're a doula?" And I'm like, "Yes. Are you interested in doula care?" And she said, "I would love to be a doula." And I said, "Well, if you go get your training, I can help mentor you." So, and I have had other people as well, massage therapists that I haven't recruited them on my team, but help encourage them to become doulas. There's a social worker in the community that is now a doula. She was interested, and I said, do it. It's one of the most rewarding things that you can do. It really helps fill your cup, even if you don't do it full time, because over the 20 years, I've done it part-time, I've done it full-time, but because of my massage therapy clinic and my children, I kind of teeter on and off of it.
What is your favorite aspect of being a doula?
The empowerment that a woman feels after she leaves the birth because she chose the birth. I get text messages and emails all the time saying, "Thank you. I wouldn't be able to do that without you." And that's not true. I feel like I just stand up and hold space for you so that you feel powerful enough to ask for what you want. So women who have a cesarean section and they want a vaginal birth, sometimes it takes communication with your primary care provider or the nurse at the hospital. And sometimes when you have someone standing right next to you, prompting you, you're able to do those things. And so the empowerment that they feel from going after things that they want and saying no to the system, not necessarily putting their baby at risk or their pregnancy at birth at risk or themselves at risk, but just asking questions to make the decision that's right for them. That is the best part, when a woman hugs me and says, "Thank you." It's like nothing else in the entire world. Women standing with women, standing next to them, not in front of them. Next to them. That is like, I have chills everywhere right now. That is the best feeling in the world. And to know that I have the opportunity to do that every day is a privilege that I don't take for granted.
If someone is unable to get a doula, what do you think is an important question that they be asking their medical provider, something that maybe gets missed a lot?
So every hospital has a standard of care when it comes to birthing. Induction's done the same way, step 1, step 2, step 3. And a cervical check is done the same way. Your placental delivery is done the same way. And what you want to always ask is the very first question, right? So anything that they offer to you, they walk into the room, they're going to check your blood pressure, or they're going to give you some morphine, or they're going to bump up your epidural, or they're going to do a cervical check. No matter what, they have a job to do, and it's important that we let them do their job. But if it inhibits our movement or anything in the birth, or we feel like we're not in charge, we should always ask, is my baby okay? Number 1. And if the answer to that is yes, then ask the second question, am I okay? And if the answer to both of those questions is yes, then say, can we pause for a second? I have some questions. But if either one of those questions, the answer is no, then obviously do whatever it is, right? There's fear involved for a reason. But if the answer to 2 of those questions is everybody is okay, you can ask, why are we doing this? Why, what are the benefits? What are the risks, right? Using your brain, which is an acronym to use in birth. So I think that's one of the biggest things with women is we don't fully inform and understand informed consent with anything. At our dentist, at our doctor's office, and the massage therapy clinic, we're not fully given informed consent and the option to refuse, because we can always refuse no matter what. but we don't know that. And I think that's the hardest part. So for me, if someone asks me, Deborah, can I see your contract? And they say they can't afford me, I'm like, what are the 3 things that you need from me that I can provide to you for free? Because that happens all the time, right? We do pro bono work. It really just depends where it comes from and how busy our schedule is. We do meet and greets in the community. We teach classes in the office. We offer a scholarship, like, every 6 months or something like that for any class. I will always offer anything for free if I absolutely can. And I don't have to pay someone for it. So I think if you can't afford a doula, reaching out to, other doulas in the community and ask them what they can provide for you for free, because it's easy to ask. The worst thing that could happen is they say no.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is the biggest thing. If you can't afford a doula to advocate for you and teach you how to go after the birth that you want, is to ask the doulas and the primary care providers, midwives, OBGYNs, is everything that you're suggesting necessary? And the way to find that out is to ask if your baby's okay and you're okay.
You mentioned an acronym BRAIN.
BRAIN, yes.
Can you...
The BRAIN is known worldwide that as an acronym to see if the option or modality that they're offering you, or the intervention that they're offering you in your birth, is just a part of a protocol, part of a schedule, or a standard of care. So I teach it with the 2 questions first. Is my baby okay? If it's yes, am I okay? Yes. And then you ask, what are the benefits of what you're offering, right? So for example, if they're saying, okay, we're going to rupture your water now, which happens a lot. That's one of the routine things that happens when you're in labor. They rupture your membranes artificially, so break your water so that labor progresses quicker. And there's really no reason for it. It's just to speed things up. But sometimes when you're coping well, you could say no to that if you're coping well. So if you have the epidural, that's a different story because something else is helping you cope. So you ask for what are the benefits. So they would say, you'll be in labor less amount of time, or it'll get the baby here quicker, or it's been 8 hours and, baby's starting to sometimes respond negatively to being in labor. Then you would ask the risk. So one of the biggest risks of rupturing your membranes is that it puts you on a timeline. You have to, in Canada, and especially here in Windsor-Essex County, they want you to have your baby delivered within 24 hours of the time that your membranes are ruptured. And sometimes we don't want to be put on our clock because birthing is very innate and physiological. So that is one of the risks of it. It makes you an increased risk of infection. And that's the reason why there is evidence to support that as well. And then you want to ask for the next letter, which is A. What are the alternatives? What else can we do? The next one is I, which is instinct. What is my gut telling me? What is my body telling me? What is my baby telling me? Does this feel right? Or does this feel like a step that is not necessary right now? And then the N stands for, what if we do nothing? And you ask those questions to your provider, whether that's a midwife or your OBGYN or the nurse that's in the room with you. You want to know all of those because it gives you all of the information to say, okay, I'm okay with that. I think that's a great next step. And, or can we please wait another hour? I'm doing well right now, and that feels really good in this moment. And, or I want to get a shower because I love the water and it feels really good when I'm in pain. So it gives you all the information and it takes away the fear of, making a wrong decision and, or that there's something wrong. So it's really important that you use your brain in labor. Yes.
There's another scenario I've been seeing a lot on Instagram where people get to like 40, 41 weeks and they still refuse induction.
Yes.
Is that common or safe? Or I guess you would go through the same thing, right? The BRAIN
exactly
acronym?
Yeah. So there's something tricky that happens here in Ontario and Canada that especially with a lot of providers that we have here in our community, that technically they can medically allow an induction at 39 weeks. Okay. So what that means is if our hospital is inducing at 39 weeks, like 20 people, 30 people, there's no alarm that goes off to the government that says, this is too soon. This is too many births being induced at that time. So all of the OBs do it because they're put in charge. They can take that person who wants the induction and drop it into their schedule the day that they're on hospital duty, right? So it's guaranteed that that person is going to give birth on that day. And I'm sure there's many reasons for that. But if there's a medical reason for an induction, they can do it at any time, but no medical reason, the government does not allow it until 39 weeks. So what's happening now is that a lot of women fully understand that getting an induction increases your chance of a cesarean section. The actual percentage is 47. That's a really high percentage when you think about it.
47% of inductions are
in C-sections,
Okay.
end up in C-section. That is our stat across Canada and even into the States. I think it's a smaller percentage than one is a smaller than the other, but 47%. So I think women are more educated on that now. And so they're saying no to the induction. And there is a lot of people that don't say that the due date is accurate. And if your baby is okay, why are we doing inductions? What is the medical reason? Like technically, if there's no medical reason, you should not be getting an induction. It's up to you if you want that, but really, if there's no medical reason, like one time that wasn't an option. Yeah. So if you're doing it because you want to choose your baby's birthday, that's good with me. I'll support whatever you want. But technically, if there's not a medical reason, there should not be an induction, but it's something that they're allowed to do
at 39 weeks.
At 39 weeks without getting reprimanded by the government of Canada. So it's happening a little bit more. It's happening a lot, and there is some controversy over it. So 30 women who are going to 41 and 42 weeks, there's a lot of shame that they're getting. They're getting talked down at the hospital. Like, why are you not getting induced? Women understand that they know that if they walk into our hospital and then get an induction, that they're probably 50% chance going to have a cesarean. And that's a really high number. Yeah. Like 50-50.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot. Yes. And just so you know, having a doula in the room with you for an induction brings your C-section rate down a lot by 18%. Mm-hmm. So it's, going in for an induction and then asking a friend to be that doula for you and or hiring someone in the community can change that percentage by a lot. And so it's important to fully understand that too. But yeah, a lot of more women are pushing the limits there past 40 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me that women want to hold on because naturally it will just happen when it's supposed to happen. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And there is some higher risk. Like I'm not saying I'm for going to 42 weeks because, you have to see it in a medical window, right? A medical view, as long as you're not high risk and you are using the tools to find out if baby is okay, to say no for one more day, then there's ways to do it that you feel safe. So making sure that that I'm not promoting that go to 42 weeks. If you want to go to 42 weeks, please call me and I'll help you how to do that safely, because there's tests that you can ask for at the hospital that can help you see how baby's doing so that you can say no one more day.
Can the birth partner act as a doula, or
Yes.
is that not recommended?
Yes, no, absolutely. Just takes a little bit of training. There was this TikTok trend that was going around during COVID, and I was so upset about. What was happening was these women were in their births and they were shaming their husband because he didn't show up in a way that they felt was right for their birth. And it's not fair because they don't know, because we absolutely don't know. Do you think that you felt that anyone that you talked to felt ready for birth?
No.
Right? Or that the husband even fully understands our anatomy.
Yeah.
There's so many things about it that.
Yeah. And even if I think I know what I want, I'm sure in that moment it completely changes.
Right. Exactly. And so I feel like what has changed a lot for me in the last 2 years is that I do very specific work with who's chosen me. So let's say you hire me and you want a home birth. Okay. And something has to happen in the birth room. There's oxytocin is a shy hormone. Let's say it like that. So it likes quiet. It likes dark and candles and soft music. So if you are in a room with me and I'm loud and, wearing neon, you're not going to let that oxytocin flow. So if you're having a home birth, I might do my 2 prenatal visits with you, and I might think to myself, I don't feel like we could survive the trust fall. So I might reach out to you and say, can we go for a coffee? Can we walk your dog? Or can I come over and give you a massage? Or would you like to come into the clinic? So I can develop a little bit more of trust with you, but only at a home birth. Right? Because it's just usually the 3 of us until the primary care provider shows up, which means we might labor at home till 24 hours without a provider. So in that scenario, I'm working very specifically with you to develop a little bit of trust. But when I'm working with a birth person and their birth partner, my job is to protect the oxytocin between the 2 of you. And your birth partner is the master of oxytocin. So they're the one that can stroke your hair or kiss you on the mouth or tell you that you're incredible and that you're powerful. And the oxytocin just flows so beautifully. So I think that in order for him to do that, he needs to understand your love language and how you cope with difficult things. And a lot of us as women, especially now, I'm seeing this more and more, we have difficulty in those moments of vulnerability asking for what we need. And in birth, it is imperative that you ask for what you need. So in the last 2 years, I do very specific work with my dads and or the birth partner. And they're the ones that text me the most. They're the ones that text me postpartum saying like, she needs help. Can you please come? And I love that is happening. It shows me that they're wanting to take a more of an active role than just holding your hand. But I don't think they know how, right? Because they don't understand the woman's body. Whenever they see us in pain, they just want to rescue us, right? Run out of the room or whatever it is. And I think once they work with someone who's teaching them birth confidence, it changes. It changes like that. They show up for breastfeeding. They show up for recovery in such a different way. That was one of the things that I really disliked about the TikTok trend, is that they were shooting the Nerf guns and stuff at the husband laying on the couch, which I think is funny. But also, how do we expect them to show up when we haven't taught them what we need and we don't even discuss it ourselves? So I love the birth partner training that my team does. I think it changes the way that you speak to each other. I know many stories where the woman is being touched in labor and she will say something like, stop, that doesn't feel good. But that doesn't happen when you work with a doula that works with partner training, because we've asked you for permission before we touch you. Your husband is also, and the birth partner is asking you, does this feel good in between contractions? We never talk to you during a contraction because that's when you're focusing. And then we ask for the feedback in between. It protects your conversation, it protects your relationship, and it protects your oxytocin. Yeah.
And oxytocin is important because?
Oxytocin is the labor hormone. It is the hormone that creates contractions and births your baby. And when you get an induction at the hospital, they use Pitocin, which is artificial oxytocin, to put you into labor. So it's the labor drug. It's also the hormone that is really high when you're really excited, or when you see a newborn baby or a puppy. When you look back at pictures of your honeymoon or the day that you moved into your home, that feeling that you get, that's oxytocin. It can be, some people call it the goddess hormone, some people call it the love hormone, but it is the labor and drug hormone as well. It creates the contractions and the movement of baby.
Yeah, so having a partner there that knows how to support you and communicate and help increase that oxytocin actually makes the labor process easier.
Yes. That is the key role of a doula, is to protect the oxytocin. Protect the oxytocin flow, protect the oxytocin between you and your partner. So I can help create oxytocin with you by creating a safe environment, darkness, candles, soft music. But the partner is the master. So my job is to create that with the two of you. So if labor is stalled at 7 centimeters and your coping is still beautiful, but the contractions are not moving, coming fast enough, and they're not strong enough that we're getting a typical progression, that happens in the hospital more than at home. They will offer Pitocin, and I will say, give me a half hour, right? So I put you in the shower, just you and him, close the curtains, and tell him this is the time where you tell her that she's a badass birther, or that you love her and that you're proud of her. All the things that we talked about in your love language, that's when he pours that over you, and you guys get a moment to yourself to regroup, right? And then the oxytocin gets higher almost every single time. There's mechanical ways for us to do it too. I use acupressure in birth, and there's positions that we can do, but the birth partner is the master for sure.
That makes sense, because the birth partner and the mom have built a relationship.
Yes.
And going through this journey together, it makes sense how, I think I've heard even hand holding.
Yeah.
Well,
kissing, just like holding hands, forehead to forehead, so many things that create that. There's also like people do nipple stimulation and clitoral stimulation, but not everyone's comfortable doing that in a space where the nurse is or the doctor is. But like touching your hair, holding hands, a gentle massage from him is so much more powerful than a massage from me. Just that safety, that security, that showing up and holding space.
You mentioned that you do a birthing program, or not, a birth partner program.
Yes.
And you teach. Are there other ones that you also teach?
So right now we're actually in the process of revamping all of our classes. We teach a breastfeeding class. We teach a comfort measures class where you can come in, you and your birth partner, and learn comfort measures for labor. But we also do a very specific prenatal class that covers all of that. We talk about advocacy. We talk about partner training. We set up our clinic in a space like where you learn different things to do at home and different things to do in the shower. And then the clinic is where we kind of make my massage table look like a hospital bed. And so we teach you how to work around all of those spaces. And we teach the birth partner how to do hands-on work. We teach them how to advocate for you. We drill the brain acronym into them and into you as well. And we talk about your love language. We do a pain management plan with you so that, when you first start asking for help, you're not waving the white flag and getting the epidural if that's not what you want. If you want the epidural between 7 and 10, there's other things that we can talk about that you might not know are options. A lot of women don't know you can get in the shower at the hospital and how to set that up. So yeah, we do a very specific class with that. Coming up in the next 2 or 3 months, we will be doing advocacy training very specifically so that you learn it to deal with your primary care provider's suggestion and the talk of induction and how to do that in a safe way for your baby and yourself. And we're starting to do newborn care and one other one, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But anyway, the classes will be launching by the end of February. We will have a full schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this episode will go live after that. So
okay, good.
We can put a link in the show notes, and it can have all of that information.
Amazing.
Thank you. This has been so fascinating, and you've given us so much information. I was sharing with you earlier that I'm really, really fascinated by birth stories because they are such pivotal moments in people's lives, like the level of vulnerability and just like how little control we have over it all.
Yes.
They're really, really shaping moments in people's lives. I don't know the word.
Transcending is a good one. Yeah, yes. Transcending. I always, you never come back from that person that you were, right? You're a mom now, and that's usually a very serious role for most people and a very difficult role.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I find is that once women feel empowered in their birth, they feel a little more empowered to handle motherhood. Because it is difficult. It is very challenging. Yeah. So birth stories are definitely a very beautiful part of being a woman.
And I know you have a podcast too.
Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
So my podcast is called Tend and Befriend, and it started out with the idea that I would tell only birth stories and also provide a platform for women looking for resources in our community so that, they could go to a place to find out, about social workers that deal with the pre and perinatal mood disorders, and the chiropractors that are trained specifically, and the physiotherapists and doctors who are open to this and not open to that. And so I've had it now for 5 years. It is slow going at times because of my schedule, and there are some beautiful birth stories on there.
Thank you. I'll check that out.
Yeah.
And if people want to find out more about you and your clinic, how can they do that?
So our website is pelviclove.com, and all of our services are available through the website. But on Instagram, I'm Deborah the Doula.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Deborah.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.